Maybe it's not about chemo radiation and antibiotic therapy. There are many proven alternative medicine. I would like that included in our comprehensive plan. I would like to have people think about a diet change. So in a sense, I want to...
Peninsula Hospital in the Rockaways closed many years before that. So the access...
Americans should have the same health care as members of Congress currently have. Thank you, sir.
It's going to be added on the cost of that health care.
From Afghanistan, and I'm glad that we will be withdrawing there after 2014. With that said, though, we cannot be naive and pretend that we don't live in a very, very dangerous...
We had the first ever formal Memorial Day celebration to commemorate our soldiers near the Finger Lakes in Waterloo.
We must secure our borders. We must...
Super PACs that are doing all these contributions. So we're talking about billions of dollars.
A certain percentage of your donations have to come...
My patients all know. They all have the same story. Every one of you, do you really feel that we're going in the right direction? Look at the...
One of the first people in the state to talk about it. I wrote an article in the...
Ms. Crowley.
I too am against the Citizens United case. They go into campaign our issues, our photo, influence politicians. But, well, we take the money out of it. Then we want to make changes to this office. Number one, let's term limit the congressional, right? Once you have term limits, it's not a job for life. I'm a healthcare worker.
Keeping jobs here in America and making goods in America. Queens was home to a lot of manufacturing and warehouses, and we want to make sure that we keep companies here and local. We want to make sure, and maybe if we have to add industries, make Queens more of a technological hub. Make sure that our private corporations and universities and hospitals invest in Queens jobs. And, Assemblyman Lansman mentions Apple. Apple, there was a New York Times article, you can look it up online recently, that talked, a very long article that talked about how Apple gets away with so many profits not being taxed.
Thank you very much. Dr. Miniman, would you be so kind to share your thoughts on this topic with us?
Thank you. First of all, bottom line is we've got to jumpstart the economy. We've got to get people back to work. We've got to start rebuilding our aging infrastructure. That's where we've got to spend our money, repairing and replacing the country's bridges, tunnels, and roads. We've got to ease access to loans to our small businesses. Banks are not into giving money to our homegrown entrepreneurs. We have to invest in real alternatives to fossil fuels and build up that industry while preserving the environment. Very interestingly, we talked about manufacturing outside and bringing it in. How do you like the fact that in the oil industry, not only do we give them subsidies, not only are they producing oil here in the United States, what happens if I tell you they're shipping it out and collecting more money? They're taking our oil and shipping it out. We have to provide regulatory relief for small business owners who are the backbone of our American employment. We have to provide incentives for companies that build new or expand their factories and the workforce here in the United States. Simply, just bringing up in terms of the medical field, the world manufacturing, the world pharmaceutical industry receives about 80 to 90% of their profits from the United States. We're subsidizing everybody else's health care. People don't realize this. We are subsidizing the world's health care. That's why they can afford it. We can't. We're paying 90% of their profits. Recently, in fact, not only that, but the drugs that we're manufacturing, important drugs like Assn, which was actually on a big shortage. We couldn't even get Assn, which is a popular antibiotic. Why? Because it's made outside the United States. Is not the issue. The issue is understanding what's going on in this country, and do we want more of this? And in reality, I'm going to head back to the last question. You asked about term limits. When a freshman walks in there, you know what they're told? They're told to keep quiet and listen, and you'd speak when you're asked to speak. That's how a freshman why? Because people have been there exactly what they say for 20, 25 years, 26 years.
So, and this is how I framed it when I was standing with a young woman, a Korean woman, college age, who wanted to go on to graduate school, but couldn't because she wasn't a citizen and didn't have the resources. Why would we as a country want to turn away a young woman who's got the brains and the industry and the commitment to go on and be a doctor or a lawyer or some other professional?
I understand why they're against the DREAM Act. But in the reality is, you do want to support, and you do want to give a legal or a means, a path for those people who have contributed to our society, and help them, and help the children get into colleges.
American people. They deserve it. It's their money. I respectfully disagree with the doctor. Although we are concerned about Social Security, the funds are, higher education is very important, specifically to do whatever we can to help our CUNY and SUNY schools, public partnerships to invest in our local universities. ESL.
The middle class just can't afford the current tuition. The cost is bankrupting the country. We have decreasing rates of actually students who are graduating. And why? It's all because of the cost. A couple of solutions. Why don't we should promote the colleges from...
Save the people who took the loan, modify these student loans, make them low interest, make them expand the loan. Remember, many of them are co-signed with their parents. Now, you really want to attack the economy. So let's think about a peace dividend.
They would get federal funding. So we need to send someone to Washington who's committed to shaping that keeps the student interest loans that are backed by the federal government at the low rate and not let them double come July. These are specific policies we can do to make education affordable for kids.
The Fed has to, which they're starting to do, open up. We want to hear what they're saying. We want to hear what their decision, and most importantly, they should be elected. It shouldn't be hidden bankers, people on Wall Street, who are appointed because they've donated money to the Congress people, to senators, etc. And that is the cause of the banking issue today. The government did regulate it. The government keeps on changing their mind. Lend more money, lend less money.
To get for consumer interest, and most of our
Very serious issue, and it's one that I have worked on for a very long time, and really think that if I have the opportunity.
We need community banks. You know, the Glass-Steagall Act was repealed. We need that reinstated. They're playing with our lives. This, right? J.P. Morgan just had another example. How can we have the 2008 crisis and then J.P. Morgan could be again, that one person, individual, can play with so much money and then rock our economy? So I'm in favor of regulating the bank and taxing Wall Street.
Thank you very much. Ms. Crowley, Dodd-Frank, Volcker, F-Bar.
I support stronger regulations on Wall Street. I think that our banks went a little too crazy giving loans out to people who could not afford them, and then they did some things that should not have been lawful, and they haven't been held accountable for giving away bad debt and loans. I think that there has to be a balance of good regulations, and I certainly don't support any regulations that would ship jobs that would be American jobs overseas. And I don't support giving any tax breaks to companies that that send American jobs overseas.
Thank you very much.